Okay, so the movie starts on this kid, knockoff Shia LaBeouf, and so he's a basketball star. It's junior high, not middle school. Excuse me. He lives in Farmington, Utah. He is the luckiest kid in school, and everyone says that 3 or 4 or 5 times. He and his team are the first time they've ever made it to semifinals before states. He's real hot shit. He's probably going to lose his virginity before getting into high school. It's pretty fucking lit shit for him. However, there's a heritage fair coming up, and he doesn't know anything about his heritage, so he starts to ask his parents. And there's a girl that he's trying to fuck or something, Bonnie, who is like, oh, you got to do the heritage fair. And he's like, I don't know. Yeah, because she's like an AP student or something. And he's like, I don't know where my heritage is from. And she says, well, everyone has a heritage. Like, for instance, me, I'm from Mexico or something. So he goes home and asks his parents where he's from, and they get weird. Like, I can't tell you how weird they are. It's very Kafkaesque. I learned that term from Breaking Bad. And so he's like, hey, where's our family from, parents? And his dad says, well, my dad's from Cleveland. And then he's like, no, but like before that, and he's like, we're Americans. We're Americans. And then when he presses him a little further, he's like, my grandpa is from Buffalo. And he gives no further information. I'm pretty sure he's a Russian sleeper agent. His mom, on the other hand, isn't asked because she's a woman. And he does some more research. For some reason, his dad changed his name, which doesn't come back at all because he's a Russian sleeper agent. But anyways, somehow he learns that his mom. Oh, he learns because he's looking at his lucky charm. Yeah, he's got a lucky charm, and so he figures out by looking at it and comparing it to a poster for an Irish festival that he must be Irish, probably. So he goes. Yeah, he actually thought beforehand that this Gaelic Irish necklace was Chinese. So he's clearly not the smartest kid. So he goes to this festival, and at the festival he sees a bunch of stuff. He meets a weird-ass man with a snake on his shoe, who later turns out to be his grandpa, spoiler alert, and also an Irish step-dancing knockoff Jim Carrey, who, one thing leads to another. They steal his lucky charm. He's lost his lucky charms, and the next day, he's got unlucky-ass day. It's terrible. He steps in shit. Water gets sprayed on him from a bus. He drops all his money. His lunch is packed in a bucket, and it's like lobsters and like pig's feet or something. And that spills all over his clothes and locker. And then after that, he goes to lunch and he gets chocolate on his shirt. It looks like he peed his pants when he's talking to a girl. It's just like the worst day ever. He finds out he's bad at basketball. It was just his lucky charm making him good. And he goes home. His hair starts getting like frosted tips, but instead of being blonde, they're ginger, and his ears getting pointed because, spoiler alert, he's turning into a fucking leprechaun. You should have seen this coming, foreshadowed from the 13th year, which we've already covered in this review session. And so what has happened is he gets home, and his mother is there. She's also a leprechaun. She's progressed a lot further than him, and she's about the size of a shoe. They talk for a bit. They figure out that the lucky charm has been stolen. They recruit the help of his grandfather, his granda, another leprechaun who owns a Irish potato chip manufacturing plant in Farmington, Utah, called Emerald Isles. Potato chips, I guess. It's just called Emerald Isles. They don't say Emerald Isles potato chips. And so they go off to find Irish step dancing Jim Carrey, who has an gambling addiction. Okay, so they go and confront him about it. There's a whole thing, a lot of bad CGI, and he takes advantage of his addiction to gambling and makes a bet with him that if he can beat him at sports, quote unquote, I'm doing air quotes, you can't see it in this audio message. So if he beats him at sports, he will give him back the coin and free his grandpa from slavery. So they compete in their sports games. So he shakes his hand and transports him to the leprechaun realm, which takes place in like maybe Ireland, but also not really, and it's always night there. And they compete in a lot of traditional, normal games that you're very familiar with, like hurling, big rock and big wheel throwing, javelin throwing as well, old-timey soccer, Irish step dancing, and running like 100 feet or something. And since you may have noticed, I've named 8 events. They each get 4, which is a tie. So they move to the tiebreaker event, which is, I bet you fucking forgot, Kyle plays basketball. And guess what it is now? It's states. We skipped over semifinals. It's not important. They didn't really care. He played bad. Don't worry about it. So it states, and in a very Space Jam-esque conclusion, he must now face this team of grown-ass leprechauns, which, by the way, I might want to note that all the leprechauns in this movie look like normal-ass people, and they're like 6'2". Like, these leprechauns that they're facing in basketball, they're not like 5'4" or something. These are like big-ass leprechauns. They're lanky fucks. And so they play. It's a real nail-biter of a game. Chadman, what's his name? Let me figure out what it is. Glendon Chapman scores a point, and that turns it around, and they start scoring some points. They realize that the luck was in him all along or something. It's not hard work, but heart that wins the game or something. Doesn't matter. They win the game. It comes down to the wire, but they win the game. And they banish this leprechaun due to wordplay to the Lake Erie, dooming him to drown in this lake, which is kind of dark, but that's fine because he wanted to be king of the leprechauns. Kind of like a leprechaun Hitler type. So he's drowned. And it kind of ends just like right there. They're in the leprechaun realm again, and it just sort of ends, right? It just sort of ends. Does anything else happen? They get their luck back. And he probably gets his first blowjob that day because he got his luck back. He's in 8th grade. They just got states for the first time ever. He's probably like one of those kids who like gets like a blowjob like way too early, where you're like, that's not healthy. Like that probably messed him up developmentally.